Okay, now if this is established, we already know the current dividend, right? So now we can have KE, right? Let me increase the size of this. Okay, KE equals to, what is the D1? D1 is what? 36.3, which is the current, right? Which is the current 36.3. Please, you guys should be giving me figure too. Divided 1 plus growth rate. What is the growth rate? We've already calculated the growth rate as this, right? And this is the growth rate.
Yes, sir.
0.041, close the brackets,
Yes.
right? Plus growth rate of 0.041. Please, you need to give me figure here. I'm coming. Okay. Divided by the market value. I'm coming, the market value divided by the market value. What is the market value? What is the market value? You can see it here. 104, 104 naira
70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can say divided by 104.70, right? Divided by 104.70, right? So you divide it. Please give me your answer. Figure. So you add the bracket, you multiply by 36.3, right? You multiply by 36.3 divided by 104.70 plus 0.04. What do you have? What is the cost of equity? Class, what is the cost of equity? What is the cost of equity? Are we still there? What is the cost of equity? Figure.
40.19%.
What do you have? What do you have?
40.19%.
Away
40.2%.
4.2. Away.
I got
Check it again. You get
0.36.
what? 0. What?
0.36.
0.36, right?
0.36.
Okay, 0.36. Okay.
Yes, I got 0.36 here.
0.36.
Plus
Okay. Okay, let me confirm that.
3613.
I'm coming.
0.3613.
Okay. I'm coming. So let's do it this way, one after the other, right? 1.041 times 36.3 divided by 104.70 plus 0.041. So this is giving us 0.40.
0.40. 0.40.
Okay,
Okay.
0.40.
Okay.
Right? 0.40. 0.40. Okay. You get it now, right?
Yes.
So this is 0.401 thereabout, I think so. 0.40 or 4.0%. Right? Is it 4.0? Is it 0.40, right?
0.40.
So I don't understand how you go 0.40 for this.
You check your calculator. Oga, check your
I got
calculator.
0.36.
You
I
cannot
got
get 0.3.
0.36.
No, wait. You cannot get 0.36. You see this 0. This is separate. This, see, multiply, add this together. Multiply this divided by 104.70. Then your
I got
answer,
easy.
add it with this.
I just opened the bracket. 36.3 times 1 plus 36.3 multiplied
No,
by
do it one. See,
0.041.
do it one after the other. Wait. 1 plus 0.041. What do you have? You have
1.041
1.041 times 36.3 times 36.3. What do you have?
times
Divided by
36.3. Okay, divided by
104.70. 104.70.
104.7. 0.3609.
Plus
Okay, plus
0.041.
0.00 plus 0.041. Okay, 0.4019. Yes,
Is one. Then yes now.
0.4019. Okay, I think the 0.04 is only for the up.
Okay. Oh.
So,
Okay. Oh. Or multiply it
sorry.
by 100. What do you have? If you multiply, or
Sorry,
if you multiply,
40%.
that is how many percent?
40.1%.
That is
40.2%
40.
or 40% to the nearest.
Okay, okay, okay.
40 point.
Okay, okay, that's
40.2%
fine.
or something like
Okay, 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 that's fine. That's fine. 40 points, 40.1%. Now, in practice, this may be wrong in the in practice, because when your debt like this is, although the cost of equity is always higher than the cost of debt, right? It's always higher than the cost of debt. But it could be that probably one or two. I didn't check the figures very well. That is the reason why we have high cost of equity like this, right? But we are right? So, and that is cost of equity. Now, let's quickly go to debt. Debt, which is 2. Now, what is the second debt that we want to look at? Under debts. So don't forget, from the capital structure, now we have preference shares. Is that not so? Preference what? Preference shares, right? Preference shares. And don't forget that they mention preference shares here, which is this paragraph, are not redeemable and have SD market value. Please take note of all this. The market value is 40 kobo. Please, Adiola and co. Please take note that the market value SD of the preference share is 40 kobo, right? And as well, take note of the interest rate. Look at the interest of the preference share is 4%. Then the nominal value is 1 naira. Then the value is 3 million. I think so. It's okay. Yes, 3 million, right? 3 million. Please take note of that so that we will not be going up and down. Now, if that is established, is preference shares, right? Preference shares. That is the next cost of what? The next sources of finance, which is preference shares. Now, what is the formula for calculating cost of preference shares? What is the formula for calculating cost of preference shares, class? What is the formula? KE equals to what? What is the formula? Hello?
it's the market value by 1 minus
The
tax rate.
dividend market value is the
Is what?
current dividend divided by
Okay,
market value
current
SD.
dividend, right? Current dividend divided by the market value SD.
XD.
of the preference shares, right? Now, don't forget that the don't forget that the current, let me bring them out. The current dividend, the current dividend, please mute your mic. The current dividend is 36 naira point 3 kobo, right? That is the current dividend, right? Now, that is the current dividend. Oh, this is the current dividend for ordinary shares, sorry. So what is the current dividend for preference shares? Class, they will always give you the dividend for preference shares. They will always give you the dividend for preference shares. Now, look at this question now. Is it given? If it is not given, you have to determine the dividend for the what? For preference shares. Look at what is given to us, right? The 40 kobo per shares. Is that not so? They give us what? 40 kobo what? 40 kobo per shares. Class, are we still together? Which is the market value as div. But the current dividend of the preference shares is not given. See, the current dividend of preference shares is different from the ordinary shares. So, ordinary shares is an equity instrument. Preference share is a debt instrument. Class, are we together? Now, the market value SD for preference shares is only given as what? 40 kobo. But the dividend, the current dividend for preference shares is not given. Right? So we come back to this part and say what? The current dividend is not given. Then we have the market value SD. Don't forget that this market value SD, it means that dividend has been paid. Excuse me. And it's also known as the market price per one. Is that not so? Which is what? 40 kobo. Now, if I want to convert this 40 kobo now to naira, I can say, oh, 40 divided by 100. Is that not so? I will convert it to naira, but we are not there yet. Just leave it like that. 40 kobo, right? Now, look at this question now. The current dividend for preference shares is not given to you in this question. So how will you now determine the current dividend of the preference shares? Now, what you need to do is that this type of question can confuse students because you will start to look for the current dividend for preference shares. You may decide to go and use the ordinary shares, right? You can say, since it is not just ordinary shares now, 36, you use it. That is the beginning of failure, right? You need to get the current dividend, dividend for preference shares, right? Because preference shares is a what? Is a debt instrument. Now, you quickly go to the capital structure. There are two ways you can use to get the current dividend of the what? Of the preference shares. Now, you can decide that, oh, this is 4%, class. You can decide that this is 4%, right? This is 4% preference shares. Now, 4% of 3,000, 4% of 3,000, class. 4% of 3,000 is what? Class.
120.
Okay,
Please.
120. Right? 120. I want to do something here. Now, let's quickly calculate the numbers. Preference shares, numbers of shares. Let's calculate preference shares, numbers of shares. Let's calculate the numbers of shares for preference shares. Now, if you want to determine the numbers of shares for preference shares, don't forget that this is 3,000. This is the nominal value. Is that not so? Now, this is 3,000. You just use your 3,000 given to you, 3,000 divided by the nominal value. Divided by the nominal value, which is 1 naira. You can see that naira cancel naira. Is that not so? Naira cancel naira. Or let me give you the formula as the total. Let me give you the formula as total value of preference shares divided by the nominal value. We give you what? We give you the numbers of shares. You know, even when you want to get your numbers of ordinary shares, the total ordinary shares divided by the nominal value, we give you what? We give you the numbers of shares. Now, why am I doing this thing? Because I need to get the numbers of shares. Don't forget that when you say something is market value SDIV or when you say market value SDIV means per one. Dividend has been paid per shares. It is per shares, right? Now, the current dividend per shares is not given to you in this question. The current dividend for preference share is not given. The first thing you need to do, get the numbers of shares for preference shares. Now, when you divide this now, right, you get what? You get 3,000 shares. When you divide this, you get what? 3,000 shares. Is that not so? Now, when you get your 3,000 shares, what will be the current value? What will be the current dividend? Now, the current dividend, you are given the 4% of this. Charge 4% of 3,000. We give you the value of current dividend. We give you the dividend for preference shares. You can say, let's say, current dividend coming for preference shares, right, equals to current value. Let me use value. Current value of dividend for preference shares is equals to this. So you charge 4% of the 3,000 given to you in the question. What do we have, class? What do we have? What do we have?
We have 120.
Class, what do we have?
120.
120, right?
120, sir.
120, thank you. 120 million. Because 120, right? 120 million. Now, class, you have calculated the current value. Value means total. You have calculated the current value of dividend for preference shares. Now, what will be the dividend per shares per one? Class, who can give me the answer? What will be the dividend per shares? Dividend per one. How much will I will pay you 3 naira per shares? So how much will be the current the dividend per shares? Who can give me the figure? How do we determine the dividend per shares? Dividend per shares now. You've calculated the total current value of the dividend. The value, right? You've calculated it. Is that not so? Now, what will be the dividend per shares? How do we determine that? Who can try? Dividend per shares now.
What will be the value of
The total current dividend divided by 3,000.
Thank you.
Divided by
Thank
120.
God bless you, Abdurrahman. 120 million divided by the 3,000 shares. Or you just use 120 naira divided by what? 3,000 shares. We give you your current dividend per shares per one for the preference shares. Now, let me go back here. So, therefore, current dividend per shares is equals to the 120 divided by 3,000. 120 divided by 3,000 shares. What do you have? Class, what do we have?
0.04.
Thank you. God bless you. Now,
0.04.
0.04. Class. See, 0.04. 0 kobo, right? And that is how it is. Now, class, see, I may not go through this stress. I will give you another way of getting your current dividend if it is not given to you in the question. Class, I can tell you that or the 4% given to you in the question, right? Use it as your current dividend. Just say 4%, which is what? 0. If you say your dividend is 4%, 4% of what? It's the 4% of the preference share, but just say your current dividend, just use 4%. Then you divide it by the market value SD. See, you will get your cost of preference share. It will still be, you will get the same thing. Now, we will try it now, class. We will try it now. Are we together, please? Now, let's quickly look at it this way. Or the 4% can be used as the current dividend, or the 4% given in the question right, can be used as what? As the current dividend. Now, we've already said this is what we will get, right? Thank you. Now, this is it, right? Class, we've gotten our what? The current dividend. Is that not so? Which is 0.04, or you use the 4% given to you in the question, class. So the reason why I bring all this thing up is because so that it will be very easy for me. So I can cut it like this and put it down. So, class, are we still together? Class, are we still together?
Yes, we are.
Hello?
We
Okay,
are
okay,
together.
okay.
Together.
Okay, good. So now, I've pasted it here, right? You can see now. Now, I cannot calculate my cost of preference shares. I'm giving you an instance. You see, this question is a trap. You will look for the current dividend for preference shares. You will not see in the question. It's a trap. And once you miss it, you miss all. Right? You can see the way we calculate it. Either you use the percentage given to you in the question, or you calculate it 4% of the value, then the per shares means per one, class, right? Now, if this is established, right? So now, the current dividend, the KE will be equals to, don't forget, this is the formula here, right? The current dividend. So the current dividend could be 0.04 because 4% is even 0.04. 4% is 0.04. Is that not so? Now, divided by the 40, right? Divided by the what? The 40 times 100. What do you have? Class, what do you have? Figure.
10%.
How many percent? 10%, right?
10%.
Thank you. This is your cost of preference shares. Now, before I move on, after the cost of ordinary shares, I'm supposed to determine the total market value, right? Total market value. Don't forget, the first step is to do what? Is to identify the sources of finance, is to calculate the cost of capital, which is equity or debt. The third step is to calculate what? Total market value. We've even skipped that one. Total market value, right? Sorry, let me quickly. But before I calculate the total market value of equity, let's calculate the total value of preference shares before we go to equity, right? Now, total total market value. Let me give you a simple way you can use to calculate your total market value, right? Total market value is calculated as you just use your equals to total value of preference shares, right? In the capital structure, right? Total value of preference shares times, you can use total value of preference shares times, or you use, let's use market value. Let's start from this part. Market value as div as div class times total value of preference shares divided by the nominal value of preference shares. Now, class, this market value as div class, it is per shares. It is per one. If it is market value as interest, it is per one. Excuse me. Right? It is per one. Now, times the total value of preference shares. Look at it. If the total value of preference shares is 3,000, you know it's 3 million because there is 30 there. Is that not so? It's 3 million. Divided by the nominal value. The nominal value could be 100 or 50 kobo. When you divide it, you get your numbers of shares. Now, your numbers of shares times the market value as the per one will give you the total market value of anyone that you want to calculate, either equity or debt. Class, are we still together? Are we tired? Are we still together? Now, are we still together, class? Equals to,
Yes, sir. We're
Please,
together.
that preference share is cost of preference share is confusing me. I have not
no,
seen
don't
what
allow
it
it
is
to
like.
confuse
It's
you. You can go
confusing
back
me.
in the, maybe it's on record, so you can go back to it again, please. Or at the end of this class, we just do brief recap. Do you get? So don't allow that
Okay.
one to confuse you, please. So the market value as div for preference shares is, we've already calculated, is given already as 40 kobo. Is that not so? Is that not so, class? As what? 40 kobo. Are we together? Is 40 kobo, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. 40 kobo, right? So we can convert it. We can convert it to naira. If you want to convert kobo to naira, you can divide it. 40 divided by 100, or you use the 40. Now, 40 times the total value of preference shares is 3 million or 3,000. Let's use 3 million given to us from the capital structure. Don't forget that it is given like that, right? Let me show you in the capital structure. Preference shares. You can see it. You can see the preference shares. You can see the preference shares. You can see 3 million, right? You can see it. Now, if that is established, which is 3 million, right? Now, divided by the nominal value. Don't forget that the nominal value of preference share is 100, is 1 naira. Now, when you divide 3 million divided by 1 naira, what do you have? You have 3 million shares, right? Times the 40 kobo per shares, right? Times the 40 kobo per shares will give you the total market value. So, what do you have, class? What is the value? What is the value? Class, give me a figure. Figure.
1,200.
What do we have? What is the value?
1,200, sir.
200. Okay.
That's
That is
1.2 million.
1.2 million, right?
Yes, 1.2 million.
Yes,
Okay.
1.2 million.
Okay. Okay. 1.2. 1.2. Let me remove this. Okay. 1.2 class. And this is, see, this is how you will be calculating your total market value, whether it is equity or debt, right? Whether it is equity or debt, this is how you'll be calculating your total market value. You calculate your cost, you calculate your total market value, you calculate your cost, you calculate your what? Total market value, right? So the same thing applicable to equity as well, right? Equals to the market value. Let me just copy this, and let me just copy the formula here. Then I will not use preference shares, it will be ordinary shares, right? So, right, okay, now market value SDIV times total value of ordinary shares, class, ordinary shares, right, divided by the nominal value. Class, if the total value of ordinary shares, now let's go to the capital structure and check. Now, this is the capital structure, right? Now, look at it. The total value here, this is it here. This is it, right? Is a million, 4 million. Now, what is the nominal value? Is 50 kobo. When you divide this by this, you have your numbers of shares. Then you multiply it with the market value, market price per shares. We give you the total market value. Class, are we together? 4 million and 50 kobo. Class, are we together? Are we together, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now the market value SDIV, let's check. We've gotten it already from this question. This is the market value SDIV already. The market value SDIV, you can see it here. You can see the market value SDIV here. We've gotten it from the question already. You can see it, right? So which is 104.70 times total value of ordinary shares, which is 4 million, right? Which is 4 million, right? Divided by the nominal value is 50 kobo, right? Which is 0.50, or you say 50 kobo, right? Or you say 50. Now, what do you have? What is your total market value? What is your total market value? Class, what is your total market value figure?
837,600,000.
What do you have? 37 million.
Eight three
What do you have?
seven million 600,000.
Okay,
Eight three
37
seven
million.
six hundred thousand.
Okay, 37,
Eight
600,
three
right?
seven.
837,600,000.
Okay, 837. Okay, okay. Now,
Yes, sir.
this is 50, oh, and this 50 is in kobo. Is that not so? 50 kobo. Class, is that not so? 50 kobo. And this is all this figure here. They are in naira, class. All this figure here is given to you in naira. So you need to convert this one to naira too, so that it will rhyme. Because if you use naira here and use kobo to divide to divide it, you can see that it does not even rhyme at all. You must use when you use when you use naira there, you must use naira to divide it. You always try to use naira to divide it, right? What you were given in the question is 50 kobo. 50 divided by 100. 50 kobo divided by 100, right? Let me put it here. 50 kobo, right? To be converted to naira, right? Equals to 50 divided by 100. What do you have? What do you have, class? This is the nominal value of ordinary shares. Class, what do you have?
0.5.
Okay, that is 0.5. Okay, good. 0.5, right? 0.5. That 0.5 means 0 naira 50 kobo. That is what it means. 0 naira 50 kobo. Now you can now use it directly. You're supposed to convert it, right? I'll still go back to that preference shares. You see the reason why we leave the other one like that. So this is what 0.50. If you are using naira, use naira all through. If you are using kobo, use kobo all through, right? So what do you have now? What's the figure? What do you have? Class, what do you have?
837,600,000.
It's 837. Okay. 837.
600.
837
600.
million 800, right? Like this.
600, not 800.
Okay, 600. Are we good? Are we good?
837.
Okay,
837, not 87.
okay, 837. Like this.
837.
Ah, okay. 8, 3, and 7. Is that not so?
7, yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Correct.
Okay. 83 million 760, right? 83 million 760, right?
No, sir.
Ah,
837,600,000.
830, 830, 837 million,
7,600,000.
600,000, 600, right?
Yes, yes.
Mhm. Okay, that's fine. So let's quickly come back to this. You can see, because you can see, you can see here, what do we have here? We have what is it called? We have what is given to us is what? Is 40 kobo, right? Is 40 kobo. Ideally, when you want to use, please, when you want to use naira all through. When you want to use kobo all through, right? Please always ensure that you convert your kobo given to you, convert it to naira, so that you can have that. Oh, because from this part now, how will you do it? Because you say 3 million divided by 1 naira, we give you 3 shares. 3 what? We give you 3 million shares. 3 million shares times the naira per unit, right? So you're supposed to divide this 40 kobo. It is 40 kobo divided by 100. It is 40. Is that not 40 kobo? 40 kobo divided by 100 we give you the naira. Then you can now multiply. Class, are we still together? Are we still together?
Yes.
Yeah, are we still together? You can see what we did here, class. What we did here, 50 kobo, it is 50 kobo. You can say 50 divided by 100. You have 0 naira 50 kobo. 0 naira 50 kobo per shares. You can see when you divide this now, you can now get the numbers of shares, because I just want it to rhyme so that you know what you are doing, right? You know what you are doing. So you're supposed to convert this to naira as well. This 40 kobo. So just divide it by 100. So when you divide it by 100, what do you have? 0.04 times. What do you have? I think you should have similar something, but what do you have? Figure, please. Class.
It's still 1.2.
Oh, it's still
1.2
1.2.
million.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it's still 1.2. That's fine. That's fine. So please always try as much as possible to use naira so that you know what you are doing. Why I'm doing it like that is because if you divide this class, lastly, you will get 3 million shares. 3 million shares, you want to get the total market value. So you need market price per shares, not per kobo. Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point from that side? So and that is how it is actually. So now Abdulrahman, let me remove this on recording.